Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, ISO More Than a Badge. My name is Gavin. I'll be your host for today's session. We'll be starting now. So before we get going, we're doing something a bit different today. We've got a poll. So if you wouldn't mind taking a moment just to answer a few quick questions, this will give us some insight into where your business sits when it comes to ISO certification. Perhaps it's new to you, maybe what's driving the interest, what's getting in the way of getting certified. And we'll keep an eye on this to help us tailor this session to make it more beneficial to cover what matters most to you. So we'll just take a moment if people can fill that out, and then we'll get going. Okay. So before we start, just a quick few housekeeping items. We've got questions. If you've got questions throughout the session, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen and not the chat. We'll be monitoring that. We can answer the questions at the end. We have some time for Q&A. You don't have to wait. You can submit your questions as they come up. The session is being recorded and you will receive a link after today's session. And if there's anything else you want to chat to us about, we'll make some features known so you can get in touch with us. We do have quite a few people that have joined us today, so great to see. I guess there's a strong interest in ISO certification. Hopefully we can cover everything. Perhaps you're new to ISO, maybe you want to improve the system you've got, or you want to see which ISO standards are best suited to you. So we'll get across all of that today. So today I'm delighted to introduce Steve Eppinger. He's the Managing Director of EvérCert. Steve has held roles in project management and worked as a maintenance and operations manager in the construction industry. He was also a director of a civil works business, and they were contracted to government and council projects. So Steve has some very good first-hand knowledge of what the compliance requirements are. And having started EvérCert 6 years ago, he's helped organizations prepare for and achieve ISO certification. Before I hand it over to Steve to give today's presentation, I'll just explain to you all about who Citation are. So Citation has been supporting businesses for the last 30 years. We started as an employment law firm and we still do offer legal services. We also do HR and work health and safety software. We do payroll and workforce management and compliance audits. So today our focus is on ISO certification, so Citation Certification Division. So just to explain to you on the next slide what citation certification is. So citation certification is what's called a conformity assessment body, or a CAB, and we provide independent third-party ISO certification assessments in accordance with the JASANZ requirements. So the acronym is the Joint Accreditation System of Australia and New Zealand. They are the ISO authority for Australia and New Zealand. And when we issue certification, it's in line with JASANZ requirements. So we work across a wide range of certificates, so quality, environment, occupational health and safety. We offer asset management. We also do information security, cybersecurity of 27001. And we also do HACCP certification, which is beneficial if you're in the food industry. So if you'd like to learn more about these standards, again, you can get in touch with us, but Steve will be going through quite a bit of this today. So That is all from me for now. So I will hand it over to Steve to do today's webinar.
Awesome. Thanks, Gavin. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to give a quick brief overview of EvérCert and who we are and some of the services we offer. Really, for me, today is about educating everybody here on the steps to get ISO certified, the practicality of writing management systems suiting your organization, and also stepping through the process in a six-stage approach. But quickly about us, EvérCert are a HSEQ management consultancy, and we really are surrounded by three core services, being consulting, where we do a fair range of ISO certification consulting, a range of management system documentation, and other industry accreditations. We have an advisory arm of the business focusing on audits and inspections and helping people keep and remain certified. And we also have a resourcing arm of the business providing part-time, full-time, secondments and permanent placement resources specifically around that niche of HSEQ. I have around 20 years experience in industry, and EvérCert ourselves have delivered approximately 100 or more ISO certification projects. So we're well equipped to give you a good understanding and the practicality around what we're going to discuss today. Thanks, Rob. Again, just a quick overview of our services. So really, our services are really around building practical management systems. And when we talk about practical management systems, process and procedure that actually reflect what you do as an organization, aligning to whatever standards that we're trying to align to. Really, for us, then, it's about helping you then support to maintain and improve performance based on what you've obligated yourself to, or what the law states that you have to obligate yourselves to based on legislation, regulations, codes of practice, and also supporting you with embedded capability within your business. But we offer a range of services across these three areas. Next slide. Thanks, Rob. Awesome. So really for us, I would say that 90% of the work that we, or the clients that we work with, are seeking certification to win more work. Many government and tier one clients require or mandate ISO certification as a prerequisite to even have your foot in the door to be able to tender for their projects. So that's at its core of why we exist. But really at a practical level, ISO certification helps you manage and reduce risk in your organization. So it's about understanding the things that potentially can go wrong, what we're going to do to control that, and how we manage that over the course of the year. It also builds credibility. And when it builds credibility, this is where citation do come in, is that if you have an external auditor coming into your business annually to review compliance, there's a credibility behind showing that you actively engage someone external to keep you accountable. And overall, you have the ability to improve performance by providing a systematic approach and measuring your business on that performance.
Yeah, that is what we see quite often, and people come in because they have a tender requirement. But essentially, by getting ISO certified, you're telling the market you adhere to the best practice of the ISO standards. You've been independently assessed and certified by Citation and approved by JASANZ, who's the governing body. So you're a safe bet to work with.
Thanks, Rob. Gav, I might get you to talk to this one.
So essentially, these are the most common standards that you'll see. So 14,001, which is environment, 9,001 is quality, and 45,001, which is OH&S. Usually, especially companies in the construction industry, a lot of industries, right, Steve, will be required to have all three standards. And often too, that is called an IMS or an integrated management system. And then, yes, we also do information security management systems, which is how you manage data and the cybersecurity framework, which is becoming more heavily mandated and required as of recent. But yes, I would say the majority of your clients, Steve, will need to have quality OH&S and environment, right?
Yeah, at its core, and there's a few practical ways that we actually can write management systems around this. And Gavin mentioned before, but each standard stands on its own, and some organisations might have a requirement to have a single certification. But what we can do is get certified for all standards at once, and we develop what's called an integrated management system. And very broadly, all of the standards actually require you to address very much of the similar thing. They're set out, the clause numbers are set out the same. The language is very similar between, and we have the ability, instead of having 4 separate management systems or 3 separate management systems, having one core integrated management system that integrates all of your policies, process, procedures into one core management system, hence why we call it integrated. Next slide. Awesome. So just very broadly, particularly we've done a big lot of data analysis around where requirements are, but specifically we deal with a lot of construction and civil infrastructure companies, generally because they're either council-funded projects, state government-funded projects. There's certain governing bodies that are funding the work, or depending on the dollar amount of the project that you're looking to seek, that the client might say, as a mandatory requirement, you must have your certifications in place. We're seeing a lot of uprise, particularly in some of the government and tier contractors, even for consultancies. So we're doing a lot of work with different consultancies as well, but you can see here that there's different requirements. But we always say that if you're looking down the route of getting a single certification, particularly say from a manufacturing business that might have a 9001 requirement from a client specified requirement. We also always really say, look, it's worth doing all three just due to the similarity of the safety, quality, environmental standards. And I'm going to run through shortly about how we achieve that. Gavin, did you want to kick in here?
No, I guess what we see a lot is essentially clients that are consulting, architects, engineers, or simply providing a product, okay, generally have the need for 9001. So pretty much anyone can use 9001. But as soon as they're on site conducting works, that's generally where they want to see all three standards. There is a big marketing advantage to having environmental, but again, a big amount of clients that just get one standard will eventually down the line add additional standards because, as you said, the management system is there. There's a lot of crossover in the standards. It's not a big stretch to get all three.
Next slide. Thanks, Robert. Awesome. So this is probably my favorite thing to tell our clients when we work with them. But broadly, the ISO standards don't tell you what to do. They tell you what your management system needs to address. And how you address it is up to you. And when I say they're broad, in no sense the standards mention the use of a form, the use of a register, or define a certain way that you must document things. But very broadly, the standards say that we need to maintain or retain documented information. And you as an organisation can decide how that is in any specific way. But given that the standards are so broad, there's actually no prescribed format. There's no specified tool. You can consult, train, make your staff aware in the way that you see fit. And there's no set levels of communication that you must adhere to. And very broadly, the standard says you either shall determine, that you shall maintain, that you shall retain, or you shall communicate. How you do it is up to you. And for us as acting as your consultants, our role is to work with you to address, well, how are you already doing this and how can we apply this to the standards? So what I'll do, I might just kick to the next slide and give a little bit more insight as to what that specifically means. But when I say how you address it, it's up to you. The standards say we must maintain or retain documented information. Now, for many organisations, that might be a paper checklist if you're a paper-based business, but a lot of organisations, given their level of maturity or the systems or applications they have in place, they might have a suite of digital document applications. They may use an ERP software. If your procedure says that we will take a photo and email it to someone at the end of the job to prove conformity or assurance, that's a way that we maintain and retain documented information. We have clients of much smaller nature that use WhatsApp, and that's for setting a WhatsApp project, communicating within the job, sending the management team a notification or a photo or any type of form that they filled out and a photo of that as evidence. And there's so many different ways that we can address the standards. And again, how you do it is generally up to you. That leads across to competence as well. Potentially in your experience in working for other companies or working for larger organizations, sometimes there's almost this thought of overcomplication, that we need a form that fills a register that tells us what to do, and there's all these obligations that sit there. But really, you have the ability to set these yourself based on your mandatory requirements by law or mandatory requirements set by your clients, or what you deem fit based on your own risk profile. So how you address this is up to you. But really, in essence, we're going to say, well, this is what the standards requiring us to address. What do we do here? What are the steps involved? How is it done? Who is responsible? When does it occur? And how do we document that? So when we look at developing procedures, we can take the standards and we can almost address them in the way that suits our organisation or your organisation. I might just kick to the next slide there, Rob. So again, some more examples there. And maybe if we focus on non-conformance and corrective action, many people think we need to be out there filling out a non-conformance report form, filling out all this information, but that may be just as much as taking a photo and sending it and having that as a log somewhere, knowing that we found an issue, this is what we're going to do to fix it, and this is what we're going to do to prevent it from happening in the future. So again, how you address the standards is up to you. And we can be very, very practical about developing really simple, bespoke management systems and procedures that are designed for the audience who they're intended to follow. Awesome. Rob, I might just kick to the next slide. So this 6-step approach is the adopted approach that EvérCert undertakes to help our clients get certified. There's obviously 2 key roles in this process. There's our role acting as your consultants, helping you develop and implement management systems, and there's Citation's role in terms of undertaking the audits, providing your certifications and making sure that JASANZ requirements are met through that approach. The way we approach certification is the same structure for every client. We will take this same 6-stage approach, but the outputs and the outcomes will be different for every client because the way that you do things is up to you. And our role is to make sure we extract this information from you and develop procedures and policy and process that's specific for yourself. But very broadly across these 6 stages, we help you plan out your management system. You can then go and develop your policies and procedures based on what you do. When you write procedures based on what you actually do, implementation becomes very easy, but this is almost saying that this is what we're going to do, or this is what we say that we do, and let's go and do it, making staff aware and running exercises to show that we've got that implementation. We then work through internal audit, which is basically analysis to say, well, this is what we say. Are we doing it? Is there evidence? Where are our gaps? Let's close those out. And then we move on to the external audit side, which is run by Citation and is considered a third-party audit. And then once your certifications and certificates are provided, that's when your 3-year cycle kicks in. I might just move on to the next slide. And what I'm going to do is just run through the practical approach around what you can actually do if you're looking at going down this route on your own, or if we're there to help you along the way. But for us, the planning process is the most important part of the certification process. Really, four standards are set out the same. And as you can see on the right-hand side, what you need to address, which is around organizational context, leadership, planning, support, operations, performance, and improvement. All of the standards are structured the same. And so we have this ability to plan an integrated approach. But my advice to you, if you are looking down the route of doing this yourselves, purchase the standard. Review the standard, see what it actually says, because what you think needs to occur versus what it actually says is super broad. So getting a good understanding of the standard is the first step in looking around what you need to address. Second thing I would do is to engage with your team. And who better to ask how you do what you do when it occurs than the people actually undertaking that particular activity or play a function within your business. And we use them to map out your core processes, addressing the items on the right-hand side. And the big thing is there's no point in reinventing the wheel. If you already have documented process, if you already have an ERP system, if you already have things like SWIMS involved, refer to those in your procedures. So we can look at a really practical approach around how we address what the standards require us to address through really good planning. I might just push to the next slide there. So really, when we talk about development, we talk about a management system, but really when we talk about a management system, it's made up of core company policies, any management plans, manuals, or procedures that say how we do things. There might be ways that we document and retain and maintain information. Now, that might be through forms or registers. That might be through an ERP or a digital document system. I'm assuming everyone uses some level of finance software in there. We can refer to that because there's a way that we retain and maintain information in those systems too. There's some specifically work health safety regulated items that we need to have, such as SWIMS or risk assessments or ways that we consult our staff, and any other project-specific documentation, depending on what your clients require or what you specifically specify. You may be the principal contractor, there's responsibilities around that, or you may be a subcontractor and things are mandated from your clients. But when we talk about a management system, we talk across those range of documented information. But when you develop your management system, my recommendation is to keep it practical and keep it simple. More words doesn't mean more compliance. And I always say to our own clients that, what I can write within, a very eloquently written 3-page procedure, I can generally write the same thing in 3 paragraphs. So when we are writing procedures, keep it practical. Think about the intended audience. Who needs to read it? Who needs to follow it? Is it maintainable? And as our organization grows or a risk profile changes, can we update it really, really easily? But that's everything backing off our planning phase, moving into our development phase, and your systems should be tailored to what you do as an organization.
Steve, just on that, with the processes and procedures, is it always best to keep it high level, or when you're working with a client, like how deep do you go? Because there would be so many processes involved in very minute ways, as well as the macros, right?
Yeah. Yeah, really good question. And I would always pull back to say, where does our risk profile sit? What is important to us? What do we need to keep high level? And where do we need the detail? We always will say, look, your operations are probably one of the most important parts of how you do things. And so the quality management standard, as an example, uses very weird, bespoke, standardized language. But the first part of clause 8 is really about your sales and tendering process. How do we get an inquiry? How do we understand what our clients or customers need and want from us? How do we decide whether we're actually going to take the project on or not? And what is the project of us reviewing their requirements, specifying that, whether that's in an offering, in a quote, in a proposal, you might have standardized pricing lists. And how do we then get our clients to accept that? So when we look at detail, there might be really good detail around your sales process, But in other areas where you go, well, we don't have a lot of requirement there, the standards tell us to address this. Let's keep it as simple as we can and show some relative evidence to prove that that's what we're doing.
Good.
Awesome. Next slide, please, Rob. So implementation. And the beauty of the implementation phase is that when we write or you write a system based on what you already do, most of these items are already going to be implemented. So there's a few key areas of implementation that we consider important. And the first one is around awareness. And all three standards at different levels say that we need to make our staff aware of policies, procedures, process, and the things that are important to us, what to do if something goes wrong, how we document that, and a few other core areas in terms of roles and responsibilities. But it's super broad. It doesn't tell you the format. It doesn't tell you in what context. But with the way that we would look at a practical sense around staff awareness would be a level of company induction. So there might be some really standardized areas that we say, well, we know we need to hit A, B, C, but if I'm starting in your business on day one, what are some of the core important things that you want that person to know and you want that person to be aware of? And it might be around, this is who we are, this is what we do, these are our core values, these are the goals of the organization, these are some of the key systems that we use, here's the people that you potentially need to report to in terms of org structure. And then we might kick into the things that the standards require us to address. But awareness is a big part of implementation, but there's so many different ways that we can achieve it. If there's new process that you've developed and that isn't implemented yet, this is the time that you roll that out. And it might be in a simple sense. It might just be going with your staff saying, guys, we've got a new process. This is how it's been developed. This is who was consulted when we do so. Let's start doing this. And it might be a small area that we need to address, or it might be something of a larger nature, but really involving people in that process rollout and showing them that this is the way that we do things around here is a core part of that implementation. And along the way, building evidence where we do need to build evidence. Implementation can become really easy if you write a management system that's based on what you're already doing, and most likely it's already implemented, and there might be a few small gaps in that process to fill.
It works really well because if you're sort of a smaller business trying to win tenders and go to the next level, the hope is once you win those tenders, the business grows. So as you bring on more employees, they're coming into the fold of having the correct processes and procedures about understanding what the business's goals are, what their values are. So everyone sort of grows organically within that framework.
Yeah, definitely. And again, the beauty of it is that we're almost creating a road. Through that planning and development phase, you've created a very easy roadmap of what you need to do when it needs to occur and how to. And this is just showing that, and this is just comes down to the doing. Awesome. Good. Next slide. Thanks, Rob. So this is probably one of the most critical phases of the certification process. But step 4 is about internal audit and management review. Now, all three standards require us to internally audit ourselves, have a schedule that sets out what we're doing and when we're doing so and who's responsible, and looking to see where our system is being implemented, where there are gaps and what we need to do to improve. But this is a critical phase. Now, this can be done on your own, or you can ask for help from us. But really what this is about saying, well, this is what we've written, we say that we do. Let's actually sit with our people to see if that's what we're actually doing. And this is all about finding gaps. We want to find gaps. You want to see where you need improvement, number one, and what you need to do to close those items out. But this is also your prep to say, well, the auditor's potentially going to look at these items. What are the things we need to fix up prior to the external audit? So it is a systematic review of what you've written, and you want to look towards evidence. But it's a really good opportunity to bring your people together and say, well, this is what we say that we do. Show me what you actually do. Now, within this, you might say, well, actually, what we've written isn't actually correct. We do something else. It's an opportunity to update your own systems and procedures. Or it might be that some of your staff do it one way, others do it a different way. How can we bring either one in line with what we actually are required to do? or there might be something critical in your business that you're saying, well, actually, we're not doing this. This is quite critical for us. Let's now start to close those gaps out. So internal audit is a good requirement. And then the management review process is it actually quite a formal process, and all three standards require us to address or discuss certain items. A lot of it is looking at how successful your system is, seeing whether you achieve your objectives and targets, if the strategic direction of the business is following what you've set out in your system, but also looking at trends. Have we had any incidents? What has happened? What of non-conformances have we had? Have we had any defects? Have we had any complaints from our clients? What have been the key themes? What do we need to do to improve across the next 12 months to make sure that we're falling in line with what our targets, goals, objectives, and what our policies state? So this is a core item here. And a little note that these two items are required for us to progress to the next stage, which is the external audit performed by Citation.
That's right. We'll always recommend having that done by stage one, which we'll explain in a moment. But yeah, often people think it's all about documentation, but there's really three core things, as you've mentioned, the documentation, the internal audit, and the management review, which makes up the ISO system, right?
That's right. Awesome. Next slide there, Rob. Fantastic. So look, I might briefly look at this from the client side, from your side, how this may be, and then this is the stage where I might kick over to Gavin to give a little bit more insight in terms of the technical, obviously from Citation side. But the external audit is run in two core stages. Stage one is a document review. Now, depending on what you do in your organisation and potentially the auditor, this might be done online, given that it is a documentation review. But this is the stage where the auditor comes in and says, fantastic, this is who we are, this is what we do. They'll ask you all about your organisation, and they'll want to see that you have your documentation in place. So your policies, your procedures, however it is that you've addressed, but they want to make sure, well, do you have a management system? Does it address the relevant areas of the standard? Have you done an internal audit? Have you done a management review? Are you set and ready to move on to stage two, which is the evidence-based implementation audit? Gavin, I might kick over to yourself to explain stage two, one and two, a little bit more detail.
So this is a JASANZ approved process, so it's mandatory. You need to do stage one and stage two in the very beginning where you first getting certified. So stage one is, as Steve mentioned, a document review. We can conduct that remotely. If the management system is paper-based, we'll come into your office. But there we spend time going through everything and seeing that you have a management system in place and it's meeting the requirements of the standard. We also issue a comprehensive report, and that's something Citation prides itself on, is our detailed reporting. And there it will show areas that need to be addressed or improved before progressing to a stage two, which is what we call the compliance audit. And from our side, the maximum amount of time from stage one to stage two is 6 months. So you get quite a bit of time to make any corrections or prepare for anything that we've noticed prior to the compliance assessment. And stage two is done on site or in person. So we'll give an agenda of who we want to chat to. And then there we're going through and cross-checking the processes that you have outlined in your business. So every business is different. Everyone has their own methodology, as Steve mentioned. So we're cross-checking that people are following those processes and also looking for evidence at that point. So yes, stage one is conducted. If you know, earlier Steve mentioned the 3-year cycle. So essentially, to get certified in the very first year, stage one and two, and then you have a surveillance audit in year two and a surveillance audit in year three to maintain certification. So stage one and two is done in the first year, and after stage two, that's when you get your certificate once you conform to the requirements of the standard.
And I suppose for everyone out there, broadly, this is not a pass or fail. they want to make sure, like Citation are there to support you. They want to get you certified. They have to remain impartial through the requirements of JASANZ. But there's opportunity for you to improve. So if there's something that's missing, if there's something that isn't documented, if there's an issue that's found, time is provided for you to either show evidence that you're going to put plans in place to correct that, or to show those corrections during or after the audit. So, this, as much as this is the most formal part of the process, the beauty of writing a system that is actually reflective of what you do, the audit becomes much easier. The words written on the piece of paper actually mean something, and you can show evidence based on what you actually do. But this is step 5 in the process.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve,
And
that's a very good point. It isn't about pass or fail. So even after stage 2, you'll get a report. And if there's still anything missing, we give you an opportunity to correct it. So it's not about pass or fail. It's about us seeing where you're not aligning with the standard or looking for areas of improvement and then making you aware of that.
awesome. Next slide. Thanks, Rob. Fantastic. So this is, I suppose, the most celebrated step, which is the last step, which is when your certificates are provided by Citation. I always say that getting certified is generally the easier thing. Remaining certified is a little bit, I suppose, more of a challenge, but you've obligated yourselves through your management systems to either undertake certain activities, to hit certain goals and targets, and to improve yourselves over time. And what I might do, Gav, I might hand over to yourself just to talk about what happens from certification and the 3-year cycle.
So as I mentioned, the first year is stage 1 and 2 with a maximum of 6 months between stage 1 and 2. Once certified, so after stage 2, that's when you are certified, and that's when your cycle begins. So a year later, you'll need to complete a surveillance audit, which you can think of as kind of a mini audit. Over stage 1 and 2, we'll look at about 100% of the requirements. In surveillance, we'll look at about 50 to 60% of the requirements of the standard to ensure you're still using the management system, you're still gathering evidence, and it also gives us an opportunity to look at areas of improvement that we looked at the year before. So ISO is about improvement over time. So we'll do that again in year 2 and again in year 3. For recertification, which is in year 4, is just another annual check. So only in the very beginning do you have to do 2 stages. And quite often that's another benefit of doing an integrated management system and doing multiple certificates, because you just do the one stage 1. Whereas if you just do quality and then a few years later you want to get OH&S, you have to complete a stage 1 again. And then our job is to try and link those cycles up so it's not that disruptive to the business. But what I will say is people are often very focused about getting certified, but you want to set things up so that it's easy to maintain moving forward, so that it's sort of business as usual. Whereas each year the evidence and the system is working as it should be. And I think that's another benefit of your services, Steve, is to help people get set up correctly from the beginning so it's easier to maintain moving forward.
That's it. That's it. And look, this 6-stage approach can be adopted by anyone. We've tried to really simplify it. EvérCert pride ourselves on making sure that we really understand the needs of our clients, just like the standards require yourselves to do. But for us, we don't need to overcomplicate this. We want to make sure that this is fit for purpose. You can follow it, that your system can be grown into as your business grows. And where there's detail, the detail's there to provide clear instruction to your staff, or your employees, or your contractors, or your suppliers, however that may work for you. But post-certification, there are requirements for yourselves. We're there to support you all the way from stages 1 to 6. Most of the work we do is around taking people who have 0 and taking them to certification. I would say generally in terms of time, that process for us is anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks. Which is a reasonable amount of time for us and for yourselves. Obviously, you have a business to run. And we also offer services, which is where our advisory side kicks in to help you remain compliant. Now, specifically, if you're looking down the path of safety, quality, and environmental management, the safety side requires us to monitor and measure ourselves, and that can be achieved through a series of workplace inspections or site audits, or whether that's ongoing review meetings with your team. But we offer a range of services to be able to help you. Some clients actually just want us once a year to say, hey, can you quickly do another internal audit, which we just see as a quick gap analysis to say, well, let's look to find where our gaps are prior to your surveillance audit, and we'll help them, assist them through that. Or they need support throughout the whole year. We have a range of services that we offer to help you remain compliant throughout the year. I might kick to the next slide there. Thanks, Rob. So a little bit on this, a little bit of sales pitch as well around this, but really for us, the goal for us when we develop your management system is you don't need to call us again. We write systems for you based on your requirements so you can run them on your own. That's a core thing for us. We'd love to work with you again, and I'd be silly in business if we didn't try to sell to you at the end of the process, but for us, it's a core attempt for us to be able to give you a system that you can operate and manage on your own. But we are there the whole step of the way through the process and post-certification across a range of different areas. We have a subscription-based model depending on the size of your organisation, what your needs are, how many locations you have, or to potentially your risk profile, to help you understand where you need to improve, where you're performing really well, and some of the items that might be priority to close out. We do that through a range of inspections, audits, reviews, gap analysis, and also attending your annual internal audit with you. Or we can also support you through our resourcing division, which provides you with either secondment of a part-time, full-time resource. We can actually recruit for you if that's something you're looking down, specifically across all levels of safety, quality, and environmental management roles. But we're there to support you post-certification. Awesome. Next slide there. Thanks, Rob. Fantastic. Now, guys, while you've sitting in front of there, I would ask you to pick up your phone. If any of this today has resonated with you, you need support right now to take you on that certification journey from a consulting side. Scan the barcode. This will take you to a little inquiry form. Fill that out. We'll get notification and we'll have a one-on-one discussion with you sometime over the next week or two. If you are already certified and what we've talked about has resonated with you in terms of redeveloping your management system, now this may have come from a range of findings or non-conformances, or you continue to have a struggle year on year with remaining certified, again, make an inquiry. We can help you redevelop your system. Or if you are certified and need some assistance maintaining, managing throughout the year, or you have any HSEQ resource needs, again, scan the barcode, fill out the form, and we'll be in touch ASAP.
Thank you so much, Steve. I'll just use this opportunity to thank you for joining us today. So we do have a special offer for those of you that have joined us, which is $1,800 off certification, which is quite a substantial amount. So please scan that code. And yes, if you have more questions about the certification part, how it all works, if there's something unique about your business that you want to discuss, feel free to let me know. A common question we get asked, and we will go to the Q&A feature, and it's probably the same for Steve, but how much does this cost? There is no set pricing. To determine your certification audits, essentially we do a calculation which looks at a number of factors in accordance with the JASANZ requirements, and based on that, we're looking at risk, the size of the business in terms of employees, locations come into the mix, the scope of what description of your services that you offer on the certificate come into play. So each time I'll need to do a bespoke quote for clients. So if you want to get an idea for budgeting reasons to see how much it's going to cost you, then I can have a chat with you and give you a quote on what it will cost to get certified. And I'll assume you do something similar, right, Steve?
Yeah, look, cost varies. Look, we charge based on time, and the amount of time it takes depends on maturity of your business, how many locations you have, how many staff you have, whether you're running multi-state operations potentially, your risk profile. Um, Also, you might already have a management system in place, and we might say, well, actually, the whole planning development side now goes. We will start with internal audit. Say, well, here's your management system. Let's just see how well you're following it. And from there, we might build out scope. So we generally
Mm,
charge based on time. If I was to guide around what that time entails, we generally, depending on what certificates you're going for as well, will have anywhere from 15 to potentially up to 20 working days of labour from our side in it. It generally requires, I suppose, around 4 to 8 hours per week on average of your time. But we take a very consultative approach and we want to get this right first time. So we put a lot of effort into that. But again, please, if you could kick back to that barcode again, Rob, back one slide. If anyone has interest around that and they want to discuss pricing from a consulting side, quickly pull your phone out, give us a scan. You'll be taken to a form, fill it out. I'll get notification, and we'll be in touch to run over pricing once we get to know your business in a bit more detail.
brilliant. Okay, well, we'll go to the Q&A side of things now. We did have a few questions pop up. Before we do that, so if anyone hasn't put in a question and would like to ask something, you can put that in now because we just had a look at the polling results, which are interesting. So 74% of attendees are pursuing ISO as part of a growth or commercial decision, not really for compliance is not driving that. They want to grow. And 48% said there's more than one area that would benefit from certification. 67% of participants are not yet certified, but the biggest barrier is simply not knowing where to start. So I hope we've given you an indication of where to start, and to have a chat with us, and we can help you formulate a timeline or strategy to get you certified. So that was good to know. Um, okay, we'll jump into the questions. So yes, as I thought, how much does it cost? I think we've answered that one. Um, yeah, this is a common one. We're a small business, fewer than 20 employees. Will it be relevant to us? I think that's quite a misconception, right, Steve, that people think ISO is really for big businesses or multinationals, but it's not at all.
No, it's not. And interestingly enough, we work with a range of size companies. Very recently, I think at the moment, we're working with two organizations. One is a one-man band who has virtual consultants who work for him. So he's gone through the certification process, runs a consultancy in the construction space. So for him to be able to tender for some of the government panels that he's seeking, certification was a requirement. So size of organization doesn't matter. We will tailor your system based on the size as well. So if where we need simplicity, we don't need to overcomplicate something, particularly if you are the sole person in the business and you've only got a couple of staff, it's going to be you who's following your own procedures anyway. So, we can keep it simple to show that this is what you have to do throughout the stages of your certification cycle. But again, we can go all the way up. We've dealt with companies who, of 100 plus staff, multi-state, and the process for us, again, is very much the same. We take the 6-stage approach. Time might take a little bit more. Implementation may take a little bit more time. But it's for companies of all sizes. It just depends on the needs of the business and the reasons for looking to get certified. And it's one of the 4 questions we ask when we jump on a sales call, like, why are you looking to get certified?
That's right. Okay. Thank you, Steve. What was this one? How long does this certification process typically take? Again, it's different. From our side, the ball's always in your court. You tell us when you're ready for your stage one. Based on the findings of stage one, we'll know when you will be ready for stage two. But I guess that's where Steve will come in is if you do have a deadline or tender, I assume you would work according to that timeline, Steve.
Yeah, that's right. Like I would say that it's probably a big value proposition from EvérCert that We generally will run like an 8 week to 10 week project lifecycle. Now, there's a few factors in that. If you've got, depending on size, how many staff you have, multi-location, but the typical project for us is anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks. It's a fair amount of time from our point of view, but it's also a fair amount of time because you do have day jobs to do this, but we get a lot of clients certified within that 8 to 10 week process. We can do it quicker if that's needed. If there is a deadline. Citation are quite good to work with when it comes to say, look, we've got a deadline. What can we do? We can work quite quickly. For us, it's just adding more resources to the project. Again, it just makes more of your time through that shorter process. Or you might say, look, I don't want to rush this. Let's extend it out. We're quite busy. Let's take this across 3 months or so. So again, timeline can vary depending on what your needs are. But I would say that a fair amount for us is around a 8 to 10 week process. The very first meeting you'll have with us is a program meeting. We will look at every activity that needs to be undertaken, what dates we're going to have those activities on, what times we're going to undertake those activities, so how long the meetings go for, and who needs to be involved in that. So it's not just set time with, say, the director or the GM or the person or the leadership in the business. We want to engage with people in your business, because who better to ask what you do and how you do it than the people who are actually undertaking that. So for us, we'll set the timeline right up front, which will kick in when we want to do stage 1 and when we want to do stage 2 as well.
Very good. I think we might have time for one or two more. We have a civil construction business. I can wrap my head around quality and OH&S, but where would environmental fit in for us? I think often people think it's about how they can control their emissions. Do you want to talk more about that, Steve?
Yeah, we do a lot of work in the civil construction space, and it depends on where you sit. If you sit as a principal contractor, you've got a good amount of responsibility around the laws that affect you under environmental management. But again, we look at it from a risk-based perspective. And part of the environmental standard requires us to look at all of our environmental aspects, what those impacts are. We can look at that from a risk-based perspective. So you might say, well, we've got soil or land degradation. There might be water release to stormwaters. There might be erosion sediment control requirements. There might even be noise and vibration, which affect communities around us. So we'll look at that from a risk-based perspective and say, well, what are some reasonable controls, whether it's on a general requirement or on a project-by-project basis, that we can set to make sure that we're either eliminating or minimising the impact to the various environmental aspects. So there's depends on the clients you work for as well. You might have acting as subcontractor. The client might turn to you and say, well, this is what we expect from you. And then your environmental management systems, your operating procedures, or potentially your SWMs or EWMs, your environmental work method statements, may be tailored for the project based on what the client requires you to do, plus adding any of your own controls there as well. So again, we don't have to overcomplicate the process, but very much the legislation kind of kicks in and tells us what we need to address, and we develop documents and procedures and implement controls to address those specific legal and other requirements.
Very good. Okay, we'll take one more. So we have a lot of software systems used for project management, CRM, finance. How do you utilize these systems so that we're not doubling up?
Love it. I love it. Yeah. For us, I suppose a bit of a godsend, because when we see systems and applications in here, we see maturity. And as I said, the standards are so broad. It doesn't say we need to use a written form or a document or anything like that. It just says we must maintain and retain documented information. Now, if you have already an ERP or a little small app or a safety app or a way that you digitally collect information, talk to that. And it might be around process, describing your process. So this is what we have to do and why. These are the steps involved. This is who's responsible at different areas. And it might be referred to Xero. We will document this in Xero. It might be Procore. It might be Breadcrumb. It might be Sign On Site. It might be any of the applications that you potentially use in your business. refer to those. So there's no point in reinventing the wheel. And for us, these are the questions we'll ask you during the planning phase. And when it's time to produce evidence during an audit, we're just referring back to your own systems. So for us, it's really good if you have these, but again, there's no specified requirement around that. It does make the process much easier because you can generally use the data in those apps to track performance, to set metrics, to see how you're performing, and then also in turn to implement improvements across the years.
Thank you, Steve. You've explained that very well. I think we've covered a lot of ground around what ISO is all about and what the process and requirements are. But again, we're always happy to have chats with people about it. So feel free to reach out if you have anything else you'd like to discuss with us. Thank you very much for your time today, Steve. Thank you, everyone on here who's joined us. I hope you inquire with us and I get to chat with you personally. And I hope everyone has a great day and has learned more about ISO in general.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining and looking forward to the chats coming up.
Thank you, Steve. Bye.